Hey, everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Geek Corner, the brand new podcast of, well, Matt's Geek Corner. This is going to be a movie based slash gaming based podcast where we're going to do a deep dive breakdown of, your favorite movies, favorite games, gaming series, movie series, sci fi, Star Wars, MCU, Harry Potter, horror, some horror. We'll get into that later, but I'm going to let my co-host introduce herself first, and then I will go second because everybody kind of knows who I am if you've watched the streams and everything. So the floor is yours.
Hey guys, my name's Tessa. Probably have seen me on the live streams chatting underneath Boomer Sooner 6714. Uh, just a little bit about me. I mean, I've known Matt for a long time. We went to high school together, met in marching band. I did color guard. He was in marching band. So we've known each other for a very, very, very long time. My entire life has been obsessed with movies. We'll get into that a little bit later, but when Matt approached me with this opportunity to just talk about movies all day long, like, where do I sign up? I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something I can do all day is talk about movies, video games, comic books, you name it. All the geeky stuff, I can talk about it for days. I mean, I used to and when I was in well, I mean, y'all know me if you've watched the streams. I am Matt of the Matt's Geek Corner, the channel. Um, I've been, as Tessa said, we have known each other a very long time. I think the first time we ever met actually was on a bus trip back from a football game, and we were talking about the Mummy Returns because that had come out at that time. It was 2001. The DVD had just yes, this is how far back we go. DVDs were still a thing. The DVD had just come out. Pretty sure the VHS was out too because they were still making those at the time, and we were just talking about the Mummy, and that's how we became like good friends. And then we went on that Disney trip with the band in the spring, and then I found out you were a Star Wars fan, so even better. And we were just all geeking out at the Star Wars stuff at Disney, and this was pre, you know, Disney Star Wars. Like they didn't own it was still owned by Fox. Fox was still their own thing. None of it was owned by Disney yet. So it was just kind of crazy how all that kind of fell into place eventually. But yeah, no, I like any type of movie. I'll watch anything. The only movies I really probably won't watch are like the really gory horror movies and some of like the possession movies like Insidious. I mean, one day I kind of want to watch it, Insidious and the Conjuring and all that. I maybe one day, but movies like that, I'm kind of like because The Exorcist scared the crap out of me when I was younger, and movies like that, I'm like I can't watch them. Sorry, I can't do it. I'm more of the monster movies and the slashers. I know you say you weren't big on slashers, and then zombies to a point. There's like very few zombie movies I like, but they started to become a little bit too much. Thank you, Walking Dead, for that. Um, but yeah, basically, um, today's episode is more of just the introduction episode. It's going to be, you know, our favorite movies. We've picked, well, I kind of picked five favorite movies. I might have to just kind of wing it on those, but we're going to pick five different movies that we enjoyed or that we enjoy the most and just talk about those. And we're going to alternate. So, like, I'll let her go first and I go second. Basically, down the list five, four, three, two, one. And then I guess at the end, we can decide which one is our all time favorite movie out of those five that we pick. I kind of already have mine picked out, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Don't ask me to pick. I can't pick.
All right, you want me to go first then, and then we can just, I guess,
Uh,
go off of that.
I mean, I guess you can. I will say, picking five movies out of all of my beloved movies was probably one of the hardest things I've done in a very long time. I just kept going back and forth, but I love this movie, but I love this movie.
Yeah.
So I had to make an honorable mention list with just three.
Okay.
They needed to be on my top five, but I couldn't.
Yeah. I
but I
mean,
couldn't leave them out either.
yeah.
So I made my honorable mention, The Labyrinth, that is
Ooh.
older than we
Yes.
are.
Yes. Very much older than we are. I
Sorry.
think by by like a year. I forgot when that movie came out.
It's 86.
80. So it's as old as me. I'm as old as the Labyrinth. Good golly.
Uh huh.
Oh man. There goes another
My other
gray
honorable
hair sprouting
mention is
right there.
Three Musketeers, the '93 version, Three Musketeers.
Okay,
Like
I
all that.
think I remember. I don't know if I ever saw that one.
Oh my, what?
I'm trying to remember if I saw that one. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I
Tim
did.
Curry in it, dude.
Who was in it?
Tim Curry.
That's right. I did see that one. I'm thinking of the later one with I think Ian McShane was in one of them.
Yeah, that was a later one.
Winston from John Wick, if anybody's wondering who that is. Yeah, I do remember the. I didn't watch it a whole lot, but I do remember the '93 version. Wow, that movie
Oh
came out in
man,
'93.
that's where half of my one-liners that I use in daily conversation come from Three Musketeers. So good. And my last honorable mention was Boondock Saints.
You're gonna hate me, but I really did not care for that movie. Everybody talked about how great it was, like how it's the best movie ever. It's awesome, and I watched it with a friend, and I was like, I don't see what the big deal is with this movie. I think it was when the new one was coming out, and I was like, I just said, I don't really see what was so great about that movie. I mean,
The new one doesn't count,
yeah,
honestly.
I didn't see the new one. I heard it was not as good compared
No.
to the original, but yeah, I just the first one didn't do anything for me. I was just like, some people they like it, it's cool. There's people who don't like the movies I like, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm not gonna like force it on them and be like, oh my god, you have to. It's the greatest movie ever. You got to watch it
Mm.
now.
I can't help it. I gatekeep a little bit with Boondock
Yeah,
Saints because everybody that's all like, "Oh my God, Daryl, he's the greatest thing." I'm like, hold on,
yeah. Okay,
he's not Daryl. Get out of
okay.
here.
I gotta say some stuff on that. His name is
No,
Norman. His name is Norman Reedus, not Daryl.
no. But that's all
When
anybody knows him for. It's just Daryl.
Yeah, so when that show came out, uh, he was at a Comic Con in I don't want to say where because then I'll say where we are. Um, I just went to a Comic Con in 2012, and he was there, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna meet him, and I hope he has some Blade 2 pictures because I don't care." At the time, I mean, I still kind of don't care about Daryl. I'm like, whatever. So I went to meet him, and he wasn't that much at the time. Now you meet him, he's kind of pricey because of the people who want to charge more for him. But I'm in line and I'm looking at the table and I see some Blade 2 pictures. I'm like, oh, there's one for Scud. Okay. I'm going to get that one. It was the last one, too. And so I got to talk to him for a bit and I was just saying, hey, honestly, I know there's a lot of people in line here for Daryl, but I loved you in Blade 2. That was the first time I'd ever seen you in anything. And I didn't realize I didn't tell him this, but I did not realize it was him until many years later. I was like, wait a minute, he was in Blade 2. Oh, he was the dude that we'll talk about it in that episode. But yeah, no, he was really nice, really cool. Um, and then after that, it was just like his line of the shows where whenever I saw him was like a mile long, 2 miles long. I was like, yeah, I'm glad I met him when the show was first starting, and his popularity hadn't shot in orbit yet from that show. I mean, he was kind of I want to say he was a little well known beforehand because people knew who he was from Boondock Saints, but after that, after Walking Dead, everybody who did not see that movie was just a huge Norman Reedus fan. And there was somebody once who, and I'll have people. I know you've met celebrities too, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so there were people who used to tell me I would never pay to meet a celebrity because it's just too much money, blah 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 blah. And it's funny they were saying it because I would post pictures when I met celebrities at the cons, and they would tell me this. So I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And then I post a picture, and they'd be like, oh, I want to meet Lou Ferrigno. I said, guess what? You've got to pay for that. And I remember this one girl said, don't underestimate a Norman Reedus because she wanted to meet Norman Reedus. I said, you have to pay for that. And she goes, don't underestimate a Norman Reedus fan. I said, what does that mean? That means nothing to me. As in, you're just gonna sneak behind the table and try to meet him because a lot of people that volunteer so they can meet the celebrities, but sometimes you get paired up and your celebrity that you're gonna handle or be the handler for, the one that takes them to and from hotels and stuff, is somebody you don't want to spend the day with. But I have a friend. Well, she's not really a friend anymore, but she got to hang out with Tom Holland when he came down here a couple years back. And I was like, well, you suck. So yeah, I've met a lot of celebrities, and I'll probably end up talking about that on some of the future episodes if they happen to fall under the movie that we are discussing. But yeah, I guess we can talk about your honorable mentions anyways, if you want to, if you don't mind.
No, I you're really asking me if I want to talk about these movies.
Well, let's talk about the Labyrinth,
Okay,
because
yeah,
that is a movie that a lot of people said it terrified them as a kid. Didn't
I
really
can.
bother me. I have some friends who are kind of, they're not so fond of the part with the hands. I can understand that.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but really, the movie didn't bother me that much. It didn't really scare me. I mean, I guess the animatronics can be scary at times. Like Hoggle looks terrifying, and then the giant dog thing looks scary. But David Bowie was great in that movie. That's the first time I ever saw him too. Him and Jennifer Connelly. That was the first time I ever saw either one of those two actors in anything, was that movie. And I think I first saw it in '97 on the Disney Channel. My sisters were watching it, and I was like, "This movie looks cool. I mean, I'm gonna keep watching. It looks awesome."
oh yeah, yeah. I immediately I honestly can't tell you the first time I saw it because it was that far back. You know where your memories
Yeah,
start. They're fuzzy
yeah,
because you're that young. I honestly cannot tell you the first time I saw it. All I know is I grew up my entire childhood being obsessed with that movie, and I mean obsessed like we kept having to buy new VHS tapes of it because I wore it out a lot. And I was so obsessed with David Bowie,
mm.
all of it, and like all the songs, I loved it. My favorite was the little worm that they talked to at the very beginning.
Was his name
I think, no,
Swarm, or
hello.
what was his
Oh
name?
God, it's so funny.
I forget the worm's name, but I know what you. Was it just Worm though? Wasn't that just his name?
It's just worm, yeah,
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
I
But
I remember
to
that.
this
He had that
day,
accent.
anytime I see Jennifer Connelly to this day, that's what I immediately connect her to is Labyrinth, all the way back then.
Yeah, even
Like
when
when Top Gun came out recently, and
she's
she
in
was
that, right?
there. Oh yeah, she was in there, and immediately just started thinking of Labyrinth.
Yeah, there's, well, one movie she's in that I try to block out of my memory is Requiem for a Dream. Ugh,
Oh,
mm-mm, mm. Movie was
okay, now
rough.
that's a great movie.
That movie,
Rough for
good
me.
movie, but it was rough to get
Rough.
through. I was
Yeah.
watching it one time and I said, "Well, okay, Jennifer Connelly's in it. Cool, I'll watch it. Keith David's in it. I'll watch it." And then they got to that one scene. I'm like, "Oh wow, okay, this is uncomfortable." So I'm not gonna
Yeah.
talk about it here, but that was a very uncomfortable movie in some spots. And then I got done. I said, "What the hell was that?" And I had to
It's one
literally
of
just block it out
those.
of my memory for the longest time.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's one of those classics that I feel everybody needs to see at least once.
Yeah,
Of course, as an adult, okay, no children.
yeah.
Let me
Children should
say
not
that
be.
right now.
Technically,
Even
I was. What was I?
no,
Was
no, 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 no. You're not old
17
enough
when I
to.
saw that movie.
Yeah, but even saying that, knowing that we watched it as teenagers, I'm sitting here saying, teenagers, you're not old enough to watch this.
No, no, no. And he's a really good director. He just did The
Yeah,
Whale recently. I mean, congrats to Brendan Fraser. I know it's a little bit late, but congrats to Brendan Fraser for winning that
don't
Oscar. I
get
was
me
so happy
started on
for him.
that. I was fangirling so hard, so
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. But back to The Labyrinth. That was one of those movies. It was a Jim Henson movie. I think he had already died at this point in time, and
No,
he was still alive.
not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
Okay, he
not
died
yet.
in the
Because
'90s, right?
yeah, because it was right when not Iger, but the
Oh,
CEO before him was
um,
trying. They had a deal to buy the whole Muppet.
Michael Eisner.
Yes, Eisner, that one. They had a deal to buy the
Mhm.
whole Muppet Enterprise from him, and he said yes, he was going to sign it, but he died right before he signed it, and his whole family went nope. Like
Yeah,
almost all of Hollywood Studios was supposed to be Muppet, like everything.
yeah. Eisner. He's the reason he's the reason that we got a lot of he's the reason we got a lot more of the uh, young adult themed rides at Disneyland, at Disney World. Like he's the reason we got Star Tours. He's the reason we got Extraterrestrial at Disney World, which is no longer there anymore. Won't talk about why it's not there because it deals with some stuff that we will not be talking about on this show with one of the actors. Um,
Will say that I did ride that at least once
I
before they
hated
got
that ride. I hated that ride
certified
so much. I
crap out.
remember we when I first went on it, I remember my dad telling me it's like Predator and Aliens. I said, cool. I go on it, and the minute those shoulder straps go down, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I do not like being. I think that helped with my claustrophobia, and I just did not like it. When it was Stitch, it was fine. When it was the other ride, I was like, So when we went on it with the band, I remember I made sure to sit as close to the front as possible because there was that part where the tongue was supposed to be a
Ugh.
tongue goes on your neck, and everybody's like, ah, because you don't know what's happening. It's in the dark. I'm like, ooh. But yeah, what I was trying to say about the Labyrinth was I think didn't Jim Henson also do Dark Crystal?
Yes,
That movie creeped me out just the way they looked. I was like,
that one was weird.
"Mm,
That one
mm,
was
mm."
weird.
Weird, and they made a sequel series on Netflix that I think got canceled if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it didn't work well at
Yeah,
all.
it was.
But that's happening a lot with some of these kind of sequel attempts, like Willow, that sequel attempt.
I never watched it. I wanted
Terrible.
to, and now that it's canceled, I don't
No,
care. I don't care
it's
to watch it.
terrible.
Oh,
Don't
it's
waste your
bad.
time.
Okay, all right.
It's
I won't
terrible.
watch it then. I'll stick with the movie then. There's
Yeah.
something else being remade or being getting a sequel treatment. I know Beverly Hills Cop 4 is coming out. They're not calling it that. They're calling it Axel Foley or something. That's supposed to be this year.
Hmm.
Um, and then you got Haunted Mansion coming out later. I saw your Haunted Mansion shirt right there. Very awesome. I got two of those in my dresser. Um, and then
Good.
you said, tell me more about the Three Musketeers because I really
Oh,
don't remember that movie at all. I
oh,
remember
okay.
seeing trailers, and I don't think I
When
ever
we're
saw it all the way through. I saw like little bits and pieces because they show us at school, but I don't remember too much of the movie, if that makes sense.
all right, so Three Musketeers. Like I said, if as soon as we're done, you and your wife, I highly recommend go watching it together.
Okay.
It's the funniest thing. So good. Uh, you've got Charlie Sheen before
He
Charlie Sheen.
before he became Charlie Sheen
Yeah. Charlie Sheen when Charlie Sheen was still good.
when he was funny.
Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer
Okay.
Sutherland's awesome. Awesome. And then Chris O'Donnell, little baby
Okay.
face.
It's coming
He's
back to
playing
me.
D'Artagnan.
I am remembering this now. I didn't know. I knew who Charlie Sheen was. Didn't know who Chris O'Donnell was yet because Batman Forever had not come out, and I had no idea who Kiefer Sutherland was until 24. That's when I found
Ooh,
out who he was. Okay, so can I stream this anywhere? Do you know?
yeah. It's a Disney
Oh, it
movie,
is
so you can
Disney. Okay,
watch it
so
on
it's
Disney
on
Plus.
Disney Plus. Okay, I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
everything's there. Uh,
Oh man. So you got Tim Curry as Cardinal Richelieu, which I mean, if you can find a better guy to play a bad guy, I don't believe you. You're lying. He's always
yeah,
going to be the best villain out there.
yeah. Poor Tim Curry. He looks rough these days.
It hurts me to see current photos. It really does.
Yeah, and I remember people saying he should have played the crab in Moana. I said, guys, the man can't talk. He can barely move. Y'all do know he had a stroke. Like they didn't really talk. It wasn't publicly talked
No,
about. I had no idea. And it's like the guy can't talk. Guys, he can't
no.
talk. So you know that's why he
I think
couldn't
it's
do it.
their left side of his body
Hmm.
is because like you look at recent pictures
Yeah.
and like this side of his face is kind of functioning, like he can
Hmm.
smile and kind of talk a little bit over here, but this side is no muscle control
Yeah. Yeah. So
whatsoever. It's terrible
it
considering all of the
yeah,
magnificent works he's done over the years.
it hurts to see.
It
Okay,
really does.
I will
Yeah.
definitely be sure to check that out. I remember seeing trailers because I know that came out the same year as movies like Robin Hood Men in Tights, uh,
Hmm.
Mrs. Doubtfire, some little independent movie called Jurassic Park came out that year. I'm kidding. You also had Demolition Man came out that year, Last Action Hero. I think Super Mario Brothers came out that year. It might have been 92. Might be getting my years mixed up. No, that's right. I think it was 93 because they were talking about this other dinosaur movie that was going to come out a few weeks later that was just going to trample all over Super Mario Brothers. And it did. It did. Um, yeah, we're going to have to talk about Mario
Not
Brothers at one point.
wasn't going to trample on Super Mario Brothers. Let's be honest.
What's that?
Not much wasn't going to
Oh,
trample on.
yeah. No, no, no. Not much was going to
I say,
destroy
I
that
say
movie.
that as somebody who I actually enjoyed the movie. I mean, I'm a Super Mario's fan.
Yeah.
Period. I love anything Super Mario. I mean, my dog is named Bowser. My husband's dog is named Luigi.
Yeah.
We love Super Mario here, but I love the movie. But I will fully admit, from an unbiased standpoint, it was terrible.
Yeah, as a
So,
kid, I enjoyed the movie. Really awesome movie. When I was a kid, I thought, oh, this is the greatest movie ever. I mean, really, when you think about it, and a lot of people say it had nothing to do with the games, when you really think about it and really, 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 really look at the movie, it does. You've got the fireball, which was the super scope, the SNES scope. At the end, they had those and they were shooting the fireballs. So you got the fireballs. You got the
hmm
jumping boots.
hmm
Bowser does turn into a um, dinosaur at the end. You
Yes.
got the king. If you remember in Super Mario Brothers 3, they transformed the king into different animals in each world. So he's transformed into a fungus mushroom or whatever. And I believe,
hmm
if I'm not mistaken, the king was Lance Henriksen when they finally show him at the end with the human form. It was an actor. When I watched it again years later, I was like, I did not know it was that actor. I had to figure out who it was. But it was one of those things where you're like, huh, okay. But yeah, no, these days it's like, oh, this movie is rough to watch as an adult. You're like, oh God, it's so cringy. How did I love this when I was a kid? And a lot of times I watch movies that my parents absolutely couldn't stand when I was a kid, and they were just like, God, that movie's terrible. I was like, oh no, it wasn't. And I watched it later. I'm like, oh, that movie is awful. Like The
Um,
Pest with John Leguizamo. We thought it was the funniest movie ever when we were kids. Again, the actor that was in this movie is the other reason why, not John Leguizamo, the other actor in this movie is the reason why Extraterrestrial is no longer at Disney World. Sorry, um, but I watched The Pest when I was in college. I'm like, this movie kind of sucks, and I thought it was
I
funny.
pet. Oh
It,
God,
it
I love.
it has its moments where I'm just like, it's still funny, but oh my God, it sucks. I'm like, this movie's so awful. How did I think this was great? But you're a kid. When you're a kid, you think everything's funny, you think everything's awesome, and then you watch it again later, you're like, ooh, it's not as great as I remember. But yeah, the past still has its moments where it's funny. Like the whole ending where he's going through the end credits and you're seeing all the flashbacks, or not flashbacks, but like the little bits and pieces from the movie and everything. So it's a funny movie, and John Leguizamo, he can be funny in a lot of stuff, but he's been doing more serious stuff lately, so not near as funny in the movies. But again, it's just, it's one of those things. If you love the actor, you're gonna watch him in pretty much whatever. I watched
Uh, you,
Summer of
you actually
Sam.
don't.
Oof.
You don't have to go too far past the Pest to see one of his first like real big serious roles because you go from the Pest to Romeo and Juliet.
Oh yeah. No, no, no,
So
no. Wait, Romeo and Juliet, was that before or after The Pest,
I believe it
or
was
was it the same
after.
time?
It was very close. I know that, but I
God,
think it was after.
90s was such a great freaking era
Uh,
for movies.
that's another one of Baz Luhrmann. If you watch the newest Elvis movie that came out, that was Oscar worthy. Uh, that was Baz
Oh,
Luhrmann.
he did Romeo and Juliet also.
He also directed Moulin Rouge, so
Never
he's
saw
one of those
that one.
directors. Very. Oh, you never saw Moulin Rouge?
No, I remember all the girls in school hooping and hollering about that movie and how they were all going to go watch it, and I only so here it is. I'm in eighth grade, getting ready to go into high school, and all the girls are like, "Oh my God, we're gonna go watch Moulin Rouge this weekend." I said, "Oh my God, I'm gonna go watch The Mummy Returns this weekend." So that was my movie I wanted to go see that weekend, was The Mummy Returns, and I remember we begged my parents because we wanted to see The Rock. It was his first movie. We wanted to go see. My sisters wanted, and I wanted to go see The Rock in his first movie as a Scorpion King, and we kept saying, "Hey, we really want to go watch this movie tonight." It was a Saturday night. We just gotten done doing the I think it was like the incoming freshman band thing or whatever. Not the kickoff, but like there was
Yeah.
one they did near the end of the year. I don't think color guard was there. I think it was just like strictly band kids, and they were just teaching us how to march, and here's what you can look forward to in high school and everything. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And I asked my mom. I said, look, I know I was here all day, but I want to go watch The Mummy tonight. And we drove all the way to the furthest mall of the way because they had the movie theater we liked, and really they didn't want to drive all the way out there, but we kept begging them and begging them and begging them when we saw the movie, and it was the greatest damn thing ever, was The Mummy Returns. um
hmm
but yeah, Romeo and Juliet, I was gonna say this earlier, was, it was different. It wasn't
Yeah.
quite the original. I really didn't like the original, to be honest.
The
I
one that we
watched
got
it
to
when I
see
was
last.
younger, but we only watched the remake or 90s version with Leo.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Because we had to watch the 70s version in class.
I
That's what
think
we had to watch.
I don't remember watching the 70s version at all in class. I know The Great Gatsby they made us watch in one class and everybody fell asleep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I think at one point when they were teaching us about Romeo and Juliet, I guess it just depends on the teacher you had because they showed us both. Actually, no, they showed us both. They showed us clips from the original 70s version and then they showed us some clips from the 90s version. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And they were supposed to show us Apocalypse Now at one point, and they said, nope, nope to that. You're going to show them Forrest
Yeah.
Gump instead for history.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder why too.
No, but one little fun fact about Moulin Rouge before
Mhm.
we move on is the Moulin Rouge sound set is the exact same sound set that episode 1 was filmed on, and they had like a 2-week turnaround. So as soon as Ewan McGregor got done filming episode 1, 2 weeks later he was right back at that sound set filming Moulin Rouge.
I didn't know that. And I forgot he
Yeah.
was in that movie too. So, okay, that kind of makes sense because episode 1 came out in 99. That means they were filming it in 97ish, but Moulin
Mhm.
Rouge didn't come out until 2001. So,
Right.
they probably they had more special effects in Star Wars than Moulin Rouge probably. I actually, you know what? Talk a little bit more about Moulin Rouge. Just some things you loved about the movie because I remember the song that Christina,
Oh yeah,
Maya, I forget the rest.
that
Who?
one.
Pink, and then who was the last
Yeah.
one? Who was the last person in that group that did that song?
Little Kim.
Little Kim. That's who it was. Yes, I remember the song. Uh,
Yeah, the song was terrible, but
But yeah,
no,
discuss some things you did enjoy about the movie.
yeah. So I always describe myself, and I've had a lot of other people describe myself as being a conundrum as far as being able to nail down like a genre to put me in,
Mhm.
because I'm all about action, comedy, Shakespearean musicals, psycho thrillers. Like, I'm all over the board.
Right.
So me going from being all into my Star Wars and Shakespeare and all this kind of stuff, but then oh hey musical over here, let's go. It was a lot of fun for me, but also the actors. So
Mhm.
like Richard Attenborough, who was also in Elvis, the new Baz Luhrmann movie that just came in. He was Elvis's dad.
Is
The
he
same.
the
He was the
brother
guy that played
of?
the bad guy,
Yeah, but isn't he the brother of? I'm thinking the
David.
dude from Jurassic
Lee?
Park, the old guy.
David
Yeah.
Attenborough, I believe. I'm not sure. I know he is Australian AF. I have that right here. So yeah, and another John Leguizamo movie, by the way,
Which one?
Moulin Rouge.
Oh, he was in that too. Okay.
Yes,
Wasn't
yes,
there a
he played
one?
Toulouse.
Was that the one? Was it that or I'm thinking of a different character? But there was a guy in one of those movies. Is either Moulin Rouge or Romeo and Juliet, and he dresses up like a lady and starts dancing around at some point. It might be
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet that I'm thinking of, and it might not be John Leguizamo at all. It might be somebody
Oh no,
completely
it
different.
wasn't John Leguizamo. No, no, there were two guys in Moulin Rouge that played the role of a female, but they made it very obvious that it was the cross. They didn't try to
Yeah,
make it look legit, but that
yeah,
was part of the story. That was part of the fun.
yeah.
And it wasn't Richard Attenborough. Excuse me, it was Richard Roxborough. Sorry, pronounce the last name incorrectly.
It's
But
all good.
no, no, it was really good. A lot of fun. It cracked me up because Nicole Kidman was so much taller than Ewan
Hmm.
McGregor. So they very rarely do any scenes where you can see both of their feet, like a full body
Hmm.
shot, because they had to put so like platform lifts on Ewan McGregor's shoes to make him like the same height as Nicole Kidman. So it's very rare, but you can see a couple of shots where his platform, like real thick heels on the bottom of his shoes, are there trying to make him as tall as Nicole Kidman.
So they
But
didn't
like
have him like Tom Cruise standing on boxes to make him
no,
look taller.
No, 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 no. I thought they were gonna do that too, but nope, no, they just made him wear these gigantic platform shoes. And I guess another reason I loved it so much is they took a lot of the just all-time classic favorite music. It was almost kind of what A Knight's Tale did
Hmm.
with
That was
like our
another good
favorite
one.
songs that we already love and they just incorporate in it.
Yeah.
But they took all of our favorite songs and made it into these musical songs that very much applied to the plot of the story.
Okay.
So like it was really really cool how they took like all the stuff from anywhere from oh what's her face everyone loves blondes,
You got me on that one.
uh JFK actress Marilyn Monroe,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
that one, wow. uh yeah, like songs from her like Diamonds Are a Girl's Best
Yep.
Friend, Nicole Kidman's just dancing around singing that one. But it all this really good music, but like in a way that it applies to the story of the movie that's going on. And it was really good because considering it was so back to back with Episode One and Star Wars, and Ewan McGregor being Obi-Wan Kenobi and
Yeah.
stuff like that, his role and the way he played it in Moulin Rouge completely took me out of seeing Ewan McGregor
Hmm.
and connecting it to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He did it really, really well that I wasn't thinking, that's Obi-Wan Kenobi right there.
I still
It
call him
took me
Obi
out of
Wan. Anytime I
it.
see him, I
Yeah,
say, "Oh, it's Obi Wan." Yeah.
Obi-Wan. Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, it's a great movie. Great movie.
I think my wife might have watched it. She might not have. I know she was watching Burlesque a few weeks ago. It was back on like Netflix or something. She's like, "I'm gonna watch the hell out of this movie," and she watched it. Um, Cher does not age. I swear to God, that lady's like found the fountain of youth or something.
Dude,
Um,
she was the best plastic surgeon on earth. That's what that is.
speaking of musicals, I the only one I can really think of that I have actually watched and I did enjoy was Hairspray with John
Ooh,
Travolta.
okay.
Really good movie. We went and saw it. Oh man, 2007 is when it came out, and one of my sisters, and my parents and I went and watched it. And usually I'm like, I don't care about musicals, but I watched it. I'm like, this movie's actually pretty damn good. I enjoyed it a lot. So much that I actually watched a play for it. Somebody was doing a high school play, and we went and watched it, and it it was enjoyable. I liked it. Haven't ever seen the Broadway version of it, if there is one. I think there is one. And yeah, no, I just enjoyed it. I like the fact that John Travolta was, and this is kind of gonna lead me into the Brendan Fraser thing because my wife had texted me about that. But they put John Travolta in a fat suit, and he
Yeah.
looked way different than he was. I mean, he pulled that off pretty well. The character of the mom,
Yeah.
a little weird at first. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. And Christopher Walken's the dad. Christopher Walken is great in anything he does, but I mean, I assume you've seen Hairspray.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that movie?
I thought it was very fun. Again, it was weird seeing John
Hmm.
Travolta in the first little bit. That took some getting used to,
Yeah,
but once I kind of let that go and got into it, it was fun.
yeah.
Um, I liked it as a step out of High School Musical for what's
Zac
his
Efron.
face, Zac Efron. Thank you. Never watched the High School Musicals. The
No.
bits that I did see of it, couldn't stand it, hated it. So I honestly saw Zac Efron. I was like, ugh, this is gonna be annoying too. But he actually impressed me. I really really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But speaking of Zac Efron and musicals, have you watched The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman?
No. I've heard good things about that.
Good. It's
Isn't
good.
Zendaya in that movie?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. I don't know why I was thinking of something else because that was right after she did Spider-Man um
Hmm.
Homecoming.
Yeah.
No, I have not seen that movie, but isn't Zac Efron in that? Because for a while he was like out of acting because he was, from what I read, he was in rehab for
Hmm.
something.
Yeah.
Then he came back and played Ted Bundy. No, I
Oh.
didn't watch that because I don't want to see him like that. But he was also in the Firestarter remake, which I honestly forgot I watched until just this moment. Give me the Drew Barrymore version any day of the week. I will take that over the remake, and that's probably why it was streaming on Peacock the same day, because they probably thought this movie's not good and we're not going to make any money off of it, so let's go ahead and put it on Peacock. They did that with the last two Halloween movies, which
Mhm.
actually did well in theaters, but nobody wanted to watch it with me, so I was like, I'll just watch it at home by myself. Whatever. Um, I like the Halloween movies, except for the Rob Zombies versions. I can't stand those. No, what I was gonna
Yeah, no,
say about
Zac Efron was in there, because
yeah,
I don't know if you know about Hugh Jackman's background, but Hugh Jackman
mm-hmm,
started in the theater. He
yep,
started as a musical performer, so
Gaston.
that's always, yeah, his that's been his first love. So whenever he does his musical roles, he does have a big
Yeah.
hand in getting to choose. So like he handpicked Zac Efron to come in and sing with him on that movie, which is a massive badge to put on your
Oh yeah.
resume that Hugh Jackman picked you
Yeah.
to come and sing with him.
Speaking of Hugh Jackman, have you ever seen the Night at the Museum movies? Mainly the third one.
Yeah.
So there's a scene in that movie where they're chasing. I honestly forget what happened in the third one because I don't remember it. I really just like the first one, but they're chasing somebody to get something back, and they somehow end up in a play area. Like they end up some kind of uh, banquet hall, not banquet hall, but like musical hall where they're doing some kind of play. And Hugh Jackman is the lead actor of this
Yeah.
play, and the guy's calling him Huge Ackman, not Hugh Jackman. And so this is right in between. I want to say he hadn't quite done the Wolverine yet. Logan was way off from coming out, so the second Wolverine movie had not come out yet, and it was getting close to his time for hanging up the towel because it was right after Robin Williams passed away. It was like that same year, and he does this thing. He's like, "You want to dance? Let's dance." And he does the claw thing, and they're like, "He's like, what are you doing?" He's like, "They're like, he's doing the Wolverine thing. He thinks he's Wolverine, and he's not." And I was like, "But he is Wolverine.
Yeah.
He might not have the claws in this movie, but he's doing his thing. And that's what people know him from. They know him as Wolverine. He was when the live action movie X-Men came out. He was the first Wolverine. He's the only Wolverine we've had. We haven't had
Yeah.
another one since, and I pray they never recast him. If they do, get somebody good. But we'll talk about that in the X-Men episode that we're planning. Um, but yeah, I did know about his background in music and theater and everything, which is very interesting. I did not know he played Gaston in The Beauty and the Beast. I think it was
Yep.
Broadway play or
Mhm.
something,
Mhm.
and he looked totally different. And it's one of those instances where I don't think they exactly said what his background was when they cast him. People just said, oh, they probably said something. The internet wasn't as the way it is back then as it is now. Um, and so people probably said some stuff. They're probably like, we don't know about this guy. I'm not too sure about this guy. Thing they did with Michael Keaton when he got cast as Batman. How are you going to cast Mr. Mom as Batman? He can't be a superhero. He's not a good Batman. He's not going to be a good Batman. He's a comedian. And he proved them all wrong because honestly, everybody's more excited to see him come back in the Flash movie than the actual Flash. I'm just gonna say that. I don't think
He's the
anybody cares about
going to see it.
Ezra Miller at this point.
Yeah, he's the only reason I'm going to see it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. So I hope he has a lot of screen time in that movie. Um, I'm pretty sure he does because they probably thought if we're gonna bring him back, we got to give him a lot of screen time because he's probably gonna be the only reason people come to watch this movie.
Mhm.
And sure enough, it is. Every time I talk to anybody about it, they said, I'm just going for Michael Keaton. I'm going for Batman. I don't really care about the rest of the movie.
Yep.
Um, what I was going to say about back to the Brendan Fraser thing was my wife had texted me a minute ago, and I didn't notice, but she said Brendan Fraser got a lot of criticism for being in a fat suit for the whale, and I don't understand why. Like, what?
I
I,
wouldn't
I
say
just
a
don't
lot
understand
of
what was wrong with
criticism.
that, you know?
I wouldn't say he got a lot of criticism. He had what I would say is the typical trolls that
Mm,
want to find something wrong. They want to find something to complain about. So they're going to look at that and say that he was fat shaming, or I know that some people were saying that, oh, if you want somebody to play a role of somebody who's supposed to be that obese. There are real people that are that obese out in the world.
Right.
Yeah, but do they have acting training? I mean, there's certain things you have to know. You can't just pick somebody up off a street and say, "Hey, do this role." That's not how it works. And it's
Exactly.
not like he
Exactly.
was disrespectful about it. He was not disrespectful at all.
Hmm.
He personally did everything he could to draw attention to the plight that people that actually live in these conditions with these situations.
Yeah.
He was very respectful about it, and he wanted to draw attention of how miserable a life like this can be,
Yeah.
and how much they need your support and they need your attention,
Yep.
and not just to be ignored. So I don't I'm not giving the people that try to complain about it the time of day, because you have no credence, you have no ground to stand on. He was not disrespectful.
Hmm.
You need to get out of here with your stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel that's there's so many people, and we'll probably dive into this in more episodes too. But there's so many times where an actor gets cast into a movie, not necessarily, not just this one, but like this superhero or this or that or whatever, and people would just they jump on the the hate train, and they just don't want that person to play that character because of their past movies, like Robert Pattinson as Batman. Everybody was like, "Oh my god, we don't want Edward as our Batman." It's like, guys, he's not Edward anymore. We're not in 2012, 2011, 10, 9, 8, whenever the movies came out. We're not in the Twilight Zone anymore. We are now out of that, and he's actually a really good actor. I've seen him in other stuff. Harry
Hmm.
Potter. Um, oh, he was in that movie with Denzel Washington's son, the Chris Nolan movie that came out a while back, and I heard he was great in that. That's the thing; these actors, they do other movies, and the thing is, he didn't like doing Twilight. None of those actors like doing Twilight. They just did it because they it was a paycheck. Um, and so everybody was like,
Right.
"Oh, he's just gonna be awful as Batman." Blah 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 blah. And then the first trailer came out, and they're like, "Oh, maybe he's actually gonna be pretty good as Batman." And that movie did really well for somebody who people just didn't want to play the character. The movie did really well. I can't say the same about Batman versus Superman with Ben Affleck. Same thing. People jumped on that wagon to just hate on him for playing the character because they're like, "Oh, Daredevil was awful." It's like, guys, that was a different time. Comic book movies are better now. Sorry, I stumbled on my words there. Comic book movies are better now than they were back then, but that movie still didn't do well because it just had so much wrong with it. There was so much wrong with that movie.
And see, that's another situation where I find myself in the less popular category, because
Mhm.
I actually enjoyed the Daredevil movies. I did. I like them. I especially, like having Colin Farrell.
Is Bullseye?
Uh, yeah, Bullseye. I love that. And plus, I have to be eternally grateful for Daredevil, because it was part of what helped bring forth my discovery of both Evanescence and Strata, which
Oh yeah,
was part of my whole goth era. And that's neither here nor there. But
oh yeah,
that's because of Daredevil. So
oh yeah. They have a whole Evanescence album in that movie, and that is the only set of their songs that I know is everything from that movie. After that, I'm like, I don't know, except for Broken. Well, that's not really Amy Lee. That's a Seether song, but Broken. They had this song in The Punisher, and then they had a
Mhm.
version with Amy Lee. My wife hates that version. She likes the one without her in it. I like them
I
both.
love it. I love that
Um,
music video. That I love that version. It's my favorite.
and the thing I was gonna say about comic book movies is if you didn't have those movies, if we didn't have to sit through those movies, some of them trash. Hulk, it's not that bad. Get into it later, but the Hulk is not. When you watch it now, you're like, the movie really is not as bad as it was back then because they did everything that a comic book movie should be doing. But if it wasn't for those movies, we wouldn't have the MCU today. We wouldn't have all these comic book movies. Some of them, I'm gonna say yes, we didn't need them. We didn't need the Eternals. We didn't need Shang-Chi. We didn't need. They're good movies. I enjoyed them, but we didn't need them. They could have been better as like shows on Disney Plus, if that makes sense. But back in the '90s, I mean, comic book movies go all the way back to the '70s, with Superman being like one of the first ones. Superman did well. Superman 2 did well. Superman 3 and 4 don't exist. We don't talk about those movies. Then you had a gap where there was nothing, and then Batman 89 came out a couple years after Superman 4, did really well. Batman Returns was good, but got panned by the parents for being too dark and violent, whatever. And then after that, it was just DC movies for the longest time because Marvel wasn't getting, all they were doing was like cartoons, and they weren't really getting a lot of movies out at the time. And if you Wikipedia and look it up and everything, some of these movies they made recently were in development way back in the 90s. Like Captain America, Black Panther started development in like 1991. There was a Captain America movie in the 90s. It wasn't great. I'm gonna give it that. Um, but the one now started all the way back then because I really wanted to see how far back these movies went in the development because there was a while where Marvel was going bankrupt and they had to sell off all their assets to different things to get a TV show out here, a video game out here, a movie out there. That way we can not lose all our money. And so that's how all the Marvel characters ended up at different locations instead of all
Mhm.
in one happy family. So you had,
And that's the reason that we will never see Spider-Man or Storm or anybody like that in Disney World.
yes, that is very true. Somebody was asking me about that. They said, why? Well, I get to that in a second, but
Yeah.
when Blade came out in 1998, that was the beginning of comic book movies kind of getting their place in Hollywood. And somebody will argue with me, or they did argue with me about that and said, I know it's a comic book movie, but nobody knows that back then. I said, it still counts. It said Marvel Comics at the beginning of that movie,
Yeah.
so it still counts. And then X Men is really when it started to ramp things up. X Men and then Spider Man came out 2 years later. It was supposed to come out in 2001. Won't talk about why that is. You probably figured that out by now why that movie didn't come out that year. Um, but those two movies are what started to put these movies on the map. Like, oh crap, these movies are actually really good. And then there's yes, we had some that weren't so great. Hulk was, it's watchable. Daredevil's watchable. Ghost Rider, it's a movie. It happened. Um, Fantastic Four, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, they're movies. They happened. Yeah, we had to sit through some trash to get to the good stuff. But when we finally got to Iron Man, there were still some movies that didn't get sold off to other studios, and they still had those movies were everything that started with the MCU. So every, uh, everything that wasn't in the MCU at the time was X Men, Spider Man, Daredevil, Punisher, and I think the Hulk still wasn't. And I'm 90% sure that the Hulk is still not fully under Marvel's roof. I know Spider Man is not. He's still Sony. He's still owned by Sony. But they're working together right now to get Spider Man into MCU and everything because honestly, that was the only thing that was going to help that character because Amazing Spider Man 1 and 2, while I enjoyed them, they just didn't. They didn't do the character justice like the Toby movies did. We won't talk about Spider Man 3 being one of those because that movie had some moments that yeah,
Yeah,
it's a movie. It
two
happened.
things I'll say is number one, we have our current era of comic book movies to thank
Mm-hmm.
entirely to an 80s, 90s movie star, Robert Downey Jr.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. That's
We would
another
not
one.
have any of this, nothing, if it was not for Robert Downey Jr. And
Yes.
everybody needs to recognize that right now.
And he is another one. I remember when this movie was coming out, people were like, "I'm not going to watch it because Robert Downey Jr. is an alcoholic." He was not at. Yes, he was, but not at this time. He was cleaned up. He was sober.
Yes.
They almost didn't cast him because of that. They're like, I, "Well, he's got a past, and we're not sure." Man, what if all that comes to bite us in the ass in the end? And John Favreau had to fight to get Robert Downey Jr. as a character. Who would you rather have, Robert Downey or Tom Cruise, who they wanted originally? No, thank you.
No,
No, thank you.
no.
I'm glad we got Robert Downey because he is Tony Stark. And when they announced
Oh,
him,
yeah.
I was so
I mean,
happy.
if you've ever watched Robert Downey Jr.'s older movies, like his 80s, his 90s
Yeah.
stuff, like Weird Science and everything like that, that Robert Downey Jr. just moved into late 90s, early
Mm-hmm.
2000s, and that's how we got the perfect representation and iteration of Tony Stark.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to tell me that Tom Cruise can come in and have those witty little banters back and forth like that with that kind of
No.
pacing of his speech. No.
No.
That's something only Robert Downey Jr. can do.
Nope.
That's it.
Yep.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
But the second thing I was going to say is in Multiverse of Madness, I wanted so badly, so badly to have Chris Evans as Captain America against Chris Evans as the Human Torch. Come face to
Oh,
face.
oh, that
I
could
mean,
have been awesome. Yes.
when else could it have happened? It would have been perfect.
Only in that. Well, isn't there a new Avengers coming out that's supposed to be like all about multiverse?
I
It's like
think
the Kang
so.
Dynasty or something.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Kang
If
Dynasty, yes.
Jonathan Majors can stay out of trouble.
So now that he's in trouble,
Yeah, now he's in trouble.
ugh,
um, he took that Creed acting a little too seriously, huh?
yeah.
Um, sorry. Yeah, no, like that could have been really awesome to see Chris Evans as Captain America fight Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, almost a Johnny Blaze, wrong character.
Oh,
Wow.
oh.
Yeah, no, that could have been awesome, and I am excited to see what Disney does with the Fantastic Four. I could be very disappointed in the end, but I'm also very excited with what they do. I mean, they're finally giving us X-Men 97, which is coming to Disney Plus. I mean, I do want to talk about that too when it eventually goes live and everything. But I'm excited to see what happens with Marvel and Disney with some of the movies they got coming out now. I mean, Blade is going through some rewrites right now, so that's kind of a good thing I heard because what's his face? The guy playing Blade, I can't say his name.
Oh,
Marshali Ali or something.
yeah,
He said there
yeah.
wasn't enough action in the movie. I was like, if you want to rewrite it and put more action in the movie, do it. Do it. Give me more action. Give me more Blade. But I'm
I
hoping it's
never
rated
want to
R.
hear somebody involved with a comic book movie like Blade say that there's not enough action.
Yeah.
That's not anything to hear.
Yeah, not enough action. And I hope it's rated R because they said Deadpool is going to be the first rated R MCU movie. I was like, okay, then make Blade the second one because Blade cannot be a PG-13 movie. He's not a PG-13 character. If you've
What
seen
do
the
you do?
originals, you know darn well he is not a PG-13 character. He's very much a rated R character.
Yeah, how do you do Blade not rated R? That I can't I can't compute.
Watch
What?
the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s and you see a non-rated R Blade. That's where I first saw him was
But
in the cartoon, and I was like, "Oh, Blade's a cool character. I like him." And then I saw the movie. I was like, "Oh, Blade's an awesome character. I love him."
no, no,
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. I don't know,
no. Mm.
but yeah. Other than the Marvel and Star Wars, and we haven't even gotten into Star Wars yet, but
Oh,
we're planning to talk about some of those in future episodes. Like, I don't know how we're gonna do it. We've discussed it off recording how we're gonna do it. Like, I thought I wanted to do something like the best movies out of the original trilogy, what your favorite one is out of the original trilogy, what your favorite is out of the prequel trilogy, maybe the sequel trilogy. I don't really remember much from the Force Awakens trilogy. I honestly forgot most about that, so we can do our
you
favorite out of that one, I guess.
don't want me to talk about the sequel
Oh
trilogy.
no,
I will.
no, yes we do, yes we do. I mean, not today, but yes we do. But yeah, other than Star Wars and Marvel and Harry Potter, some of the movies I love are like war movies. Saving Private Ryan is one of my
Ooh,
all-time favorite movies. Sad as hell, but one of my favorite movies of all time.
great
Forrest
movie.
Gump kind of counts a little bit in the section where he goes to Vietnam. That's a sad, 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 sad movie. And when I was a kid, it wasn't that sad. When I watched it as an adult, I'm like, tearing up at certain scenes, like when his, mom
Because as a
passes away,
kid, yeah, as a kid, you're not really getting
registering it.
full extent of what's
Hmm.
happening because it's a lot. It's a very deep story
Yeah, and that's like
that a kid just
stuff
can't get.
from when our parents were kids.
Hmm.
Um, and when we watched it in high school, and the scene where his mom dies, and then when Jenny dies, when his mom dies, you just feel bad for him. You're like, shit, I don't know what he's just sitting there. He's like, I don't know what to do, And then Um, and then Jenny dies at the end. He just loses it, and then you feel bad for him even more. You're like, damn,
Hmm.
this guy's just been through a lot.
Hmm.
But Saving Private Ryan's another good one, like I said, and
Yeah.
kind of sad in the end. It's one of the first times I saw Vin Diesel, and he got himself shot in that movie because he wouldn't listen to Forrest Gump. And I'm just like, you idiots! If you just let the kid go, you wouldn't have gotten. You'd still be here. But I think you didn't. Everybody die in that movie almost, except for like Matt Damon's character. That's it. He's the only one that survived because the whole point was to save his character, and we'll talk about that later. But
Yeah.
the whole point was to save him, so of course he survived.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, no war movies. Comedies obviously are something I
Hmm.
love. Some of the comedies I do enjoy are, Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, a lot of the Eddie Murphy movies from the '90s. Man, there's so many comedies to think of.
Hmm.
I don't really like a lot of the newer comedies because
No.
they're not as witty or funny as the older ones. And then you got movies like Hot Shots and Airplane, which were slapstick and spoof movies. Those were funny back then because they were just making fun of everything. And then when they started trying to bring the spoof movies back after Scary Movie 3, it just became of okay, what was popular this year? Let's make fun of that. So it's like I think there was one called Meet the Spartans that came out, and all it was just spoofing things that were popular in 2007. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
care. That's just it's like it was like a YouTube recap video or something, or like one of those dumb like montage videos you see. I was like, that's just not funny. When you watch something like Hot Shots, they're making fun of things from like they're just making fun of stuff. They're not even
Oh
in
yeah.
particularly making fun of. They would take a movie like Top Gun and spoof that whole movie and just make jokes about the whole movie. So then when you watch the serious version, as I call it, you're laughing the whole time because it's like you're thinking of Hot Shots or Young Frankenstein. They were spoofing Frankenstein, so you're laughing at Frankenstein when you watch the real movie. And just they don't really do spoof movies anymore because I guess they ran out of ideas. Like, how are we gonna make fun of all of this stuff? You know, that's what I loved about the ones from the '90s and '80s because they just picked one movie and made fun of it. And the Naked Gun movies are actually based off of a TV show. I didn't know that for the longest time. Based off a TV show, and then they turned it into a movie. So it's not really a spoof movie. It's just a slapstick movie. It's just a bunch of dumb things happening in the movie. Still funny, but not really spoofing anything. They would just, at times, they'd make fun of a couple things like real world things, like they'd poke fun at the president at the time and things like that. Um, so it had its moments. But I'm a big sci-fi person too. Love me
Mm.
some sci-fi movies. I know Star Wars kind of falls into that, but I'm talking like Blade Runner, Aliens, Predator, Terminator. Terminator being my favorite movie of all time. So when we talk about that, I probably won't be able to shut up about that movie. Yeah, just a few. Those are a few things that a few movies that I do enjoy. I guess I didn't really get to do my honorable mentions because we didn't really go into the top five. We just kind of kept talking about different movies, which is kind of what this episode was supposed to be about. Was just an introduction to us and then the types of movies we enjoy, the types of movies we would watch to review on the channel. But
Do
honorable
we want to
mention. Sorry.
for later, or do we want to spout off top fives now? Save them.
Um, let's save it for another one when we start getting into more episodes because we're already hitting that hour mark.
Yeah.
But I would say my honorable mentions are I'm gonna go with the first three movies I ever saw: Raiders of the Lost Ark, Ghostbusters, Batman '89. Um, what I loved about and the thing about Raiders is that my mom actually sat me down to watch that movie because I was just goofing off one day, and she says, "Here, we're gonna watch this movie. You can sit down. You're gonna enjoy it." And I remember the VHS. I think I still have it too. And the beginning of it says it was a trailer for either Temple of Doom or Last Crusade, but it didn't show any footage. Showed nothing. It just said coming soon we'll just say Last Crusade. So they said George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Harrison Ford, Sean Connery. I'm like, I have no idea who these people are. Just get to the movie. And then I found out later they were the actors. I'm like, oh, that's what that was. And it was just that was a teaser. It would just didn't show anything. All it said was coming soon. And I remember the Pirates of the Caribbean trailer or the teaser trailer did that same thing. All you saw was the two big actors in that movie, Jeffrey Rush and Johnny Depp. That was it. Nothing else. You had no idea what the movie was like, what it was going to look like, who Johnny Depp was playing. And then when the trailer for that movie finally came out, I was like, holy crap, this movie looks awesome. And then we got four more, five more that didn't really matter after that first one. I mean, they're okay. They probably should have stopped at the third one, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one.
After that, it kind of became like, why you, now you're just, come
Yeah, we're
on.
just pulling for stuff now.
But no, like the first one was great. And then I felt like the second one was kind of a letdown. Third one disappointed me because Johnny Depp didn't show up for like what an hour into the movie. He was out of that movie for a long time,
He
and
was.
and I'm like, when's Jack Sparrow getting here? What the hell? Um, so yeah, no, that was the first time I saw that at Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I think Ghostbusters was around the same time. But that movie kind of scared me in certain spots with the terror dog coming out of the couch, and then the terror dog coming out of the closet at Louis Tully's apartment. Scared the crap out of me because the thing's just chasing him down the street. And it was just one of those movies that's it's not really scary, but it scared you as a kid.
Yeah.
Um, Raiders of the Lost Ark did the same thing at the very end of the movie when everybody's faces are melting off. Terrified me. And I mean, you gotta remember, I was like 3 or 4 when I saw these movies. So you know, as a kid, that's small. Something like that, you see a dude's face melting off and exploding. It's gonna kind of traumatize you a little bit, you know. Um, so that scared me. Batman, I don't really remember a whole lot of it when I first saw it because I was 3 years old, and we saw it at a drive-in, and I just remember my parents telling me the film burned out in the movie, and so we didn't end up finishing it. Watched it
Oh.
years later, but I don't remember any of that. I have seen a film burn out in a theater once, and it was Jurassic Park at a dollar theater. Right at the end of the movie, the film just burnt, and I asked my dad what happened. He goes, "Oh, film burnt. Let's go home."
Oh.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But I'm trying to think of any other movies that we can. What do you hope to discuss in future episodes of this show?
Oh man. Pretty much anything and everything. Like just the segments about breaking up Star Wars. I mean, that's where you're not going to be able to get me to shut up.
Oh,
Right
that's
there.
totally fine.
Anything. Uh, I mean, I can break down like do a whole montage, like per actors, like we break down all the Brendan Fraser movies, Biodome,
Yep.
like just
Wait, was he
go
in
go back
Biodome?
to the jungle.
Are you sure you're not thinking of Encino Man?
Encino Man, sorry, not Biodome.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think he was in Biodome.
Oh
Pauly Shore
crap!
was in Biodome, but
Yes, that's why I'm connecting the two of them.
oh, Encino Man, that's a great
No,
movie.
yes, Encino Man,
But
but
yeah, no, I'm just excited to discuss a lot of things. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, just discussing movies, and then we haven't even gotten into the gaming side, but we plan to talk about games too, like just similar thing where we'd break down the game, talk about one of the first times you ever played it, kind of thing, and just um, things like that. I know you said you won't do movies about slashers or zombies, so if there ever is a episode where we need to cover one of those, I can always get you know somebody to fill in for that episode because I know
yeah,
you were like, nah, not
I
happening.
can't. No, I can't. I've tried.
Guys, she won't even tune
No,
into my
I
stream
can't.
when I'm playing Resident Evil because of the zombie.
I can't. I can't do it.
Um, no, don't worry. When I'm done with that, I'm gonna play something a little more family friendly. I think maybe something without zombies, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the breaking down the movies and everything. Like we said, doing the because Star Wars is definitely something that's got to be like in parts. You can't do there's so much Star Wars, you can't do one episode on everything Star Wars. You need a bunch of stuff. You need, um, the first episode or first one for the prequels or the original trilogy, then the prequels, and then maybe the sequel series. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of good things to say about that either. Um, and then like the Die Hard movies. That's another
Ooh.
one that I love. The first three more than the last two. To be honest, I really didn't care for the last two. They made them cool. They didn't need to make them, if you ask me. Um, just there's so many movies I'm thinking of right now that we can discuss. I mean, oh man, and some of the movies we talked about today we'll go into more detail on other episodes about that. But like I said, guys, this is just an introduction episode. Like I said, I wanted to just have us introduce ourselves and just have a little discussion and what we like, what we don't like, and just what types of movies we are into. Um, so, I mean, is there anything else you want to add before we, take
Uh,
off?
Yeah, just I mean, anybody who's watching, if there's a movie that you love that you want us to talk about, please let us know in the comments. We'll absolutely do that. If it's not already something that we're planning on talking about, we'll add that in. But one last thing I wanted to put in just to show how much I've been obsessed with movies my whole life, and pretty much how Matt and I met. One of the lines that I always said all throughout my childhood, high school, growing up, and everything, I would not be involved in any conversation. I'd be talking to somebody else. There would be people behind me, and I would just overhear them talking about a movie, and I would stop, interrupt them in the most rude way possible because I couldn't control myself, and just say, I love that movie, and then turn around and go back to my conversation. So it was such a big thing that, Matt, you'll love this. On my high school letter jacket, at the very, I put, I love that movie. And this is all the way back from high school. That's how long I've had it. That's how long movies have been such a thing for me. But that's how I was known all throughout high school, was the movie chick, that movie nerd.
Yeah, I think that's honestly that is how we met. I was talking to somebody else entirely about The Mummy or Jurassic Park 3, one of those two movies. Ooh, Jurassic Park 3 is another one we're going to talk about, and I do not have good things to say about that movie. I got some good things. Not a lot of bad things though. And yeah, and I remember you were sitting in front and you turned around and said that, and that's how we met,
The movie.
talking about The Mummy. Um, yeah, no, like I said, I've been a movie fan since I was three or four. Um, one of the one of the first times I ever got scared in a movie was probably outside of Raiders, Jaws.
Oh,
Jaws,
nope.
yeah, scared the
Nope.
pants off of me. That one and American Werewolf
Wow.
in London. We'll talk about both of those movies. I've already covered Werewolf in London on the channel once before, but to discuss it with somebody else, even better because that last one was just me talking about it, and it was one of those times where I was like, I really want somebody else to talk. That's really what made me want to do this. Was I tried to do some movie reviews by myself, and I was like, I really want somebody else to talk to about these movies because they can add more to the conversation than just me going okay, and then like that video, I gave the whole plot for the whole movie, and I broke it down. It was a little Cliff Notes version, but I broke it down from beginning to end. What happened in each little scene. I mean, I didn't go too deep into it on like little bits and pieces here, but like all the major parts of the movie. And I was like, this is something I want to do, keep doing, but I'd rather do it with another person talking to me as well. Um, and like we'll go into discussion on like the production of movies, like I said, actors. We kind of gave you a little tease on how that's going to be today, like actors and how some people didn't like the choice of actors, development of the movies, if it was in development hell for a while, because there are some movies that were in development hell for a bit. Like Hancock was one of those in development for a while, as long as Duke Nukem Forever. And just that's basically the gist of this, how this show is going to go, and it'll be the same with the games too. I mean, we got to figure out when we're going to do the gaming episodes and stuff. And it depending on what game it is, we might have a guest or not. If we discuss Spider-Man, I do have a friend who I don't even have to ask him. He'll say yes to it. He'll say yes to being on the show because he's a huge Spider-Man fan. So whenever we discuss the Spider-Man movies, I definitely want to try and get him on if he can. If he can't, we'll just have to, I guess, reschedule to when he can because I really want him on there. There's some people that I really want on the shows to talk about certain movies. And then my wife, there's some movies that she would want to talk about too. Like I said, Mean Girls. You talking about how you can't stop talking about Star Wars. She will quote that whole dang movie in the episode. She loves Mean Girls. It's her sleep movie. Um, so yeah, that's basically it, guys. So where can people find you, Tessa?
So, a couple of spots. I'm actually part of another podcast with some buddies of mine that I game with all the time. We're doing a podcast about the Mandalorian, the newest season. So you can find us on YouTube at the Breakdown Podcast. Just look us up there. Got a lot of stuff going on with that. Anything YouTube, Twitch, Discord. Just use my name, Boomer Sooner 6714. But you can also find me on TikTok at what in the huh. So like what in the THA underscore HUH TikTok handle. But
Yeah. And
yeah,
I'll put
just
I'll
keep
put
checking
all
out.
those links down in the description here so that people can find you there just by following the link. Unless you have like if you have a link tree, definitely can do that. But yeah, just when you get a chance, just send me all the links and we'll put them down in the bottom here. Um, obviously you can find me here um, every Tuesday and Thursday streaming 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can also find Tessa in there for the moderating. Unless I'm playing a zombie game, then you won't see her in sight. There is one game called Zombies Ate My Neighbors that I do want to play, and it's like a little cartoon. It's a Lucas game, a LucasArts game from the Star Wars people. So it's very interesting. I'm gonna play that at some point. I might actually just record that one instead of streaming it because it's like a short game. I don't want to. I don't like playing short games on stream. I like to play the ones that take a bit. Currently, depending on when this goes live, yeah, actually, you know what? I'm not gonna say what I'm streaming currently because this probably will go up after I finish both games. But yeah, you can find me every Tuesday and Thursday. Um, Wednesdays is premiere night, so I premiere a pre-recorded playthrough. I don't know which game is gonna be live by the time this one goes live, but you can also check out my past preview or premieres of my 007 games. I think by the time this goes live, my Mortal Kombat playthrough might be done and Evil Dead might be starting. Not 100% sure on that. Um, and then I think this show is going to be premiering Fridays. That's the day that I want to stick with is Fridays because Mondays I is when we would normally record, and I also premiere something else on Mondays. Currently, I'm premiering my wrestling videos, my WWE stuff. So Fridays. Did I just mess up what I was saying? I think Fridays is when this will be going live. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Other than that, if you have nothing else, you know, thank you guys for watching. Should we tell them what the next movie is that we're actually gonna record, or just let it be a surprise? It has Brendan Fraser in it. We've talked about it quite a bit on this
I was
episode
gonna
so far.
say we've mentioned it in this episode.
It might be George of the Jungle, might be Encino Man, might be the Mummy,
Could be the whale.
could be the Whale, could be Monkey Bone, could be Bedazzled. It could be Looney
Oh,
Tunes, whatever the heck.
oh,
Looney
what was
Tunes
that
movie he did.
movie? Was it Dudley Do Right?
Could be Dudley Do Right.
Yeah.
It could be Crash. He was in
Ooh.
that too. That's a sad movie too. So
Mhm.
yeah, it is a Brendan Fraser movie that we will be talking about next episode. Stay tuned, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Later.